Help support this channel and get early access to videos, plus exclusive content and patrons-only live discussions by becoming a member at patreon.com/Bruce Poinsette.
Awesome. This is the Bruce Poinsette Show, the world's most dangerous infomercial, and we have a special guest, Numbers family, literally, in the building. Got Morgan Jones, who I don't usually do the formal intro, but I feel like this one's worth it. So Morgan Jones is a podcaster, political analyst, on-air personality, co-host of Woke PDX cultural events, EDI consultant and facilitator, sneaker and music enthusiast, and most importantly, proud graduate of Your Daddy Like It University. Welcome, Morgan Jones.
That's me. Thank you.
How are you doing today, Morgan?
I am wonderful. I've been looking forward to this for 2 weeks now, so it's a great day.
Yeah. Glad
How are
to
you?
have you in studio. I'm doing good. It's Thursday. It's draft day. Chris Paul's going to the Warriors.
It's draft day. Breaking news. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. My bad. I've been in a news hole and not that kind of news. So, wow. Okay. This used to be a big deal to me in my life.
Yeah.
Clearly, I don't know anything anymore.
Oh, just a lot of things happening. I've just learned. You let me know that Chris Paul is apparently going to the Warriors, and that's wild. And I have to do a lot of processing of all that.
Wow.
But in theory, we're going to talk about quote unquote real news. But before we get into all that, though, I just want to talk about like your background, both with hosting, like very prolific in media, and also live events. And one, as far as just like the background with like doing live shows, can you just talk about what got you into that? What got you into that space? Because it can be a lot.
Specifically, you mean hosting live events that are okay? Yeah. How did I get into that? I think Woke was my first really hosting multiple live events. And then facilitating in the breakouts and stuff. How did that happen? I started podcasting first. I should tell you that I come from a prolific media family. I don't. Well, sort of. Not really at all. But my grandma was on TV. My dad was... actually, I kind of do, now that I'm saying this out loud. So my grandma was on TV for a long time, Geneva Jones. And my uncle Steve Jones, was a snapper and was a Blazer commentator. the Steve Jones.
Steve Snapper Jones.
And my dad is Nick Jones, who was also in the NBA and then worked for the Blazers for a very long time, almost 15, 16 years, something like that, where he went around and talked to people live all day. That's what he did. Businesses, kids, all the things. And my entire life, like, public speaking was one of my biggest fears. It was just like, there's absolutely no way that I could ever do what my dad does. That's crazy. I don't know how he does it. And then shout out to Can Jones, my sibling by choice, asked me to be on a podcast. And I said no. And Ambush said, you should do that. And I said, you are wrong. And then I did it. And then I loved it. Took a minute to love it. I hated it at first. But, and then that kind of just like broke me out of the being scared to talk in front of people thing. And sometimes when I'm, have an event and I start talking, my voice is a little shaky, and I've learned to figure out, just be like, oh, that's happening. It will go away. And I'm nervous all the time, but then it's fine. So shout out to Faith, who asked me to host a Woke event with Can, or well, I guess it was Can, asked me. And then we were just a part of that. We were going to be the hosts of all the Woke events. And shout out to Britton, also, Numbers fam, and Rashonda, Numbers fam. They both were instrumental in getting me to host My People's Market, and which introduced me to Michelle. So then I got to host Paseo. And there's, a bunch of different things now that I can put on a resume. It's a weird thing to do. It's when you're used to talking to someone and you can like feed off of them and you have your banter. If there's no one else up there with you, it's an interesting place to be. A little scary, but
Yeah. Well, it's funny you talk about just like initially kind of like having that sort of I guess like fear of being on stage, like anxiety around that. Because again, just like as someone who, you mentioned Ken earlier in the Unrefined Sophisticates podcast, which for my money, best podcast in Portland. But
thank you.
It doesn't come off that way. Like even seeing you like on stage with Britain at these My People's Market events where it's like it feels very natural and very comfortable. So I'm curious, like, was there like a moment you had sort of in this journey where it just like it clicked like that?
I want to say yes, but I don't think so. I think that each time I am as nervous as I was the first time, and then it goes away. So the click like happens in the middle of it. So yeah, like sometimes I'll get up there and be like, "Hey, I'm Morgan Jones," and my voice is all weird, and I'm like, "Just give it a second, it'll be fine." And then that click, like, then it's fine. Sort of like acknowledging it, but no, there wasn't. I'm still scared. I'm still anxious. I'm still nervous, but I also like it. I like it a lot. I like talking to people. I like running my mouth. Clearly, I mean, I try and be in front of a microphone all the time, so. Something happened. I just don't know when it happened.
So you say you're at that stage where, so I was talking about this with someone else the other day as far as like, just being like comfortable with your voice and like listening to yourself, because that is a thing.
That's a thing. People. It took me a long time. That was a part of why I did not want to do a podcast. I was like, I don't want to have to listen to me. I hate my voice. And I have spent my life hating my voice. Like, ew, it sounds like that. And then I realized I hear something that you don't hear, like it's just different. And I'm far more comfortable with it now. Although I will tell you, if I like get surprised by it, like if I don't know, I don't know, like something happened where it was all of a sudden my voice is on the radio or on TV. And I'm like, why? That terrifies me. But it's not like ew, gross. It's just like, where is she coming from?
Right.
I get surprised.
Well, I think like another theme with a lot of these things, whether it be like PDX, My People's Market, but then also Unrefined Sophisticates, News with My Fiance. Shout out to Ambush in the studio.
Shout out to Ambush.
But I was gonna say, like, another theme is just like collaboration. It's usually like co-hosts, partners, and again, I feel like the chemistry jumps off stage, jumps off screen, jumps off speaker with it. Again, whether it's Can, Ambush, Britain, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Can you just talk about, it's like the process in building that? And I ask this personally because like I'm in my own thing. I like watch other people. I'm like, dang, that rapport is awesome. How do
you get that?
How do I siphon that from you all?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's just like you click with certain people, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know that I would have the same chemistry with someone else, but like it also takes having an actual relationship. So I have an actual relationship with Can. I have an actual relationship with Britt, actual relationship with Ambush. So it's like we are just being ourselves. And that's one of the best things about this, is that I think one of the things that was big scary for me was thinking that I had to be right all the time, or know exactly what I was talking about the whole way through and be an expert, right? And that is not real. It's not a real expectation. No one should have that expectation of themselves. But coming to the understanding that that's not real, what this really allows me to do is be myself. And so I am authentically myself on every single show I'm on every stage I'm on, which is a big difference from working in corporate structures or nonprofit structures where you are masking, code switching. And I don't have to do that. And so that alone, I think, allows for chemistry to be a little more showy because we're not hiding anything. You don't have to like suppress. You don't have to worry about what you're saying or how you're saying it. So, but I don't know. I make connections with people, I guess. I don't know what to say.
I'll editorialize a little bit. I feel like in these different platforms, you're able to like maintain that balance of both substance but also having fun, being jokey, where I think oftentimes it can, make the actual content stick more. Like you talk about this idea of sort of like the construct we have of like what's quote unquote official and real, especially like I think about these media spaces.
Yeah.
And having, I guess, the idea of what I thought media was supposed to be coming out of journalism school versus working at a newspaper, doing more multimedia stuff, and like what is it supposed to look like? What makes it official? What codes as official to other people? And it's just you kind of like learn through the process. Like, oh yeah, there is no set definition. There is no whatever rules people are saying there are. They're not really.
They're not
real.
rules. Yeah,
a lot of people are getting information. Just working with middle schoolers and asking them, okay, so where do you get info from? And they're talking about, I watch this Twitch streamer,
right.
And like some of that can be frightening, but also some of that
and
is like,
some of that can be great.
Yeah, maybe I need to learn how to play video games again, so I can just
right.
I can pontificate or not pontificate, but like I can proselytize to the children.
I'm in the same boat. I honestly am in the same boat. Like Twitch is, and I mean, there's all other kinds, but being like a streamer politically is a thing that makes sense to me because it is like just more conversation. So to me, it is a way that people can learn without feeling like they're there to learn, and that opens people up to so many different avenues of learning. So, I think I definitely remember being like, you said you get your news from YouTube. Like, what? Like, years ago. And there are so many smart, so many brilliant, so many great researchers that are doing great things that, like it's happening. And we would have never thought that was legitimate or official or whatever. And the more that I learned that all of the things that we were told should be official are just like, white supremacist structures that are not for us anyway. Like, why do I want to play by those rules?
Right. Sometimes I feel, admittedly, like when I ask people, where do you get your news from? And they say like Twitter or something. The journalism snob in me wants to be like,
how dare you?
But I feel like there's I'm not even gonna say a happy medium, just more of a being more accurate about it. So like, okay, you get it from Twitter because, we go in the news feed and we follow certain people, but like who do they like, who does you get from this writer? Who do they write for? Like, you don't even have to tell, like, yes, you get it from Twitter, but just tell me the outlet, tell me the writer. It's not that you're finding it on Twitter. It's just understand the source you're going with, understand, like who pays for, who's sponsoring this paper or whatever, what's this person's background. Not to, some people hear that and they're like, you're just discouraging me from getting the information. It's like,
right.
No, I just want you to have a more accurate, closer understanding of the information you're getting. That's all.
And that's really important. And I wonder if that's your journalism background. Mine comes from just being nosy. And I just want to know, like, who's the person who's telling me this? Because the amount of money that is in propaganda, basically, just, the amount of money that's in it and the amount of money that they spend to hide who has paid for this thing, that's enough for me to want to know who paid for everything. Because why are you hiding it? Why don't you want me to know that the Ayn Rand Association had something to do with this, So I'm with you. I am a big proponent of I'm not going to tell you where you can or should or can't or whatever get your information, but I highly encourage people to know the source and know the motives of that source, because if they're spending a bunch of money to make your life miserable, but then give you news that also just makes you miserable, there's a reason that's happening. It is literally to control you. And that this is not like some conspiracy theory. It really is just we know people are motivated by fear. And if you can scare people a lot, scare them in things that are related to their lives, then they're going to act in some way. So the importance of the source is really, really high up there.
Yeah. And I, sometimes like I take for granted, again, it's just like journalism school background. Like, I got formally taught a lot of these things, and most people not going to journalism school. And also, I just think, again, when it comes to media literacy, you shouldn't have to go to journalism school when, the 10 o'clock news and all these things, like you're getting that information that's influencing your decisions, the decisions of those around you anyway.
Right.
So like a big thing has been just how do you trying to make media literacy more accessible to people, just because, again, this stuff affects you regardless. This affects your policy decisions, whether you go to journalism school or not.
Big time.
So just like, however, and I think, honestly, like when we talk about the numbers, we talk about different projects we do, like we serve a role. I'm sure you have people come up to you, because they come up to me and are like, hey, Bruce, I trust you. I don't trust I don't trust the media, or the media,
the legacy media or the
like
mainstream media.
But you're a trusted voice. And part of me is like, thank you. I appreciate the support. Part of me is also, gets a little anxious, because I'm like, don't put all that responsibility on me, because there's like I'm a recovering news junkie. When I was in college, I would wake up like watching. Like I'll watch CNN on mute while I'm reading a news story before breakfast, waiting for class, reading. Like I have like 10 different, sites
outlets
where I just go through like every story on the front page at least. And like I'm doing that from when I wake up to basically in between classes, in between activities. And I watch Democracy Now! And then turn on some documentary to like, Rosetta Stone myself to sleep to.
Wow.
Yeah. I ended up having a panic attack when I started working for a newspaper and trying to still do that. So I don't recommend people do that.
Yeah.
But also, I realized it's like that thing where it's like, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes.
Like once you go on to, not even like a specific thing, but like once you go to like, I want to know what's happening on the continent. So I go to All Africa. They have sections for every country for all the news. I don't have enough time in the day to learn everything that's happening, never mind dealing with the bias and perspectives of what sources they're getting that news from and what stories those are coming from.
Right.
So I understand when people are like, hey, I can't follow everything, so I go to the trusted source. I get that.
I'm with that too, but we are also, for the most part, not Africa. So,
yeah.
There's some stories you could keep up on without, not you, that folks could keep up on without having to look so deeply. I worry about people that say, I just can't keep up, or the news is just too scary, or, ooh, it makes me feel bad. Like those y'all folks make me worry. Like, I also am very curious about what kind of life that is. That's cool. I'm in perpetual panic because I have to know what's going on.
Right.
That is, I have to know. But anyway.
Well, I'm curious to that end though, like, because we all engage in some process of basically like curating news stories, because one, with whatever you're doing, you have a run time. You have only but so much time, and you're like, it's like when you're going about curating stories. So, for example, for a new News with My Fiance episode, like, what does that process look like to narrow it down and say, this is what we want to talk about, and this is what we think is important to make it, stick with our audience?
So what I have noticed about News with My Fiance is Ambush and I have very different schedules and very full schedules. So it's not like we get to sit down and plan the show together. What ends up happening is no matter which way we decide stories, like sometimes, he'll send me stuff, I'll send stuff, and then I'll start to put it together. Sometimes it's just me, sometimes it's just him. But for the most part, once I figure out, I'll narrow down like 6 stories. And we used to try and do 3 local, 3 national, and really understand that the bulk of our show is the context of the story, of the news story, not necessarily the news story. So we would never get to all 6 stories because we would be talking about, and giving context to why this was important or our commentary on it. So we've narrowed that down and made it a little easier. 2 and 2 sounds great. Sometimes that doesn't work because sometimes there's 3 local stories that are just get us riled up. So sorry to cut to the answer of your question. What ends up happening is we talk about those stories, and it's the ones that get us the most riled up. The ones that get us the most passionate about talking about it. Those are the ones that I'm like, keep it and write that story out.
Yes, sounds very organic, basically. Like,
yeah, it is. And I didn't recognize that until probably last week. But, just been doing the show for like a year and a half. Or longer than that. I don't know how long News with My Fiance has been a thing, but
sometimes it takes longer for that to come together for a lot of people. Yeah. So,
well, yeah. It's me for Unrefined. I find most of the stuff, and sometimes there are things that are on the doc that we just don't get to, and then there's other times where we'll talk about it before we start recording, and it's like, oh, this one doesn't. This is boring, or you don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this. This is not one. So it really is just like a chat it through.
Speaking of the Unrefined Sophisticates, I feel like you have one of my favorite, as far as just like promotional methods, like specifically like on IG, y'all have just like a carousel of random social media wonder.
It's the, the meme farming for me. It's the, I spend a lot of time just on different, like I would call myself a news junkie. I am not recovering or recovered, but I do get a lot of stories from Twitter, but I don't stay at Twitter, so to your point of the media literacy, it's like you find something on Twitter or Reddit or wherever you find those things, and then you need to go out of that and Google those things and find other articles. And if there aren't any, to stop. Like, don't look further because someone's lying to you. But yeah, it's so I end up spending more time on the internet seeing reactions. I love going to the comments and seeing how crazy people are. And so I get a lot of memes, a lot of reacts right off of that, and throw it in the slide.
I think, because I feel like a lot of us are just wrestling with how do we market ourselves in an oversaturated market of just everything, and how do you cut through the noise? So, like, even when I pull up the page here and I just get like the first 6 slides that show up, white girl in braids, or white girl with pop smoke braids.
They said she looked like George Washington with pop smoke braids. That is like the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
Yes. It's a Black Power moment,
Chuck Schumer with the Kwame.
Yes. We got some kente cloths,
I think I reposted the Oprah and Whoopi Goldberg. I can talk. Whoopi Goldberg, Hot Girl Summer.
Yo, the City Girl, Whoopi, and Oprah's. I only found 2 of those, but they're like my favorite pictures on the internet, and they're both on that page. So if you are wondering what I'm talking about, go to the Unrefined Sophisticated
AI
IG.
tatted up, shirtless Dr. King. George W. Bush with the Devin Booker haircut.
With the AirPods. Yo, the internet has given us some greatness. Like that, yeah.
Because it's funny, it's like I try and repost these when I see them, and I get responses from people who are just, especially with the Oprah Whoopi Goldberg one.
Yo,
I'm not gonna say who it was. Shout out to you though, which is in the pockets of like,
okay.
Hey man, it was too early in the day for this. It was just like,
didn't need to see that. They needed to see that. They needed it.
But I think the bigger point though is like when we're talking about marketing, just seeing people having fun. Like, it really, like, it sounds small, but it does something, you know?
I started doing those slides trying to like include a bunch of stuff that we talked about on the show and in the episode, you know, and that was like close, but just not it. And I think that's because there's stuff on the show that we talk about where there is like an educational moment or, you know, there's a moment to learn. And so in keeping consistent with the idea of laughter makes certain things land, like I felt like maybe the marketing for this should just be funny. Like it should just be chuckles. You don't have to like be reminded of whatever white supremacy thing just happened that we talked about for 20 minutes. Like we can just laugh sometimes, and that's a survival tactic. So yeah. I don't know how it really like just all the way evolved into this, but it's like one of my favorite things to do is to look for memes for that slide.
As a fan, I enjoy scrolling through them and just
I appreciate
having some moments.
I love an award. Where's the soundboard? I need awards. I need applause, tokens, something. Reggae horn. Always start with the reggae horn.
Ooh,
or don't. Or don't. It's fine.
So, one thing I want to have you in as not a recovering news junkie to talk about some of the some news stories that are definitely not under the radar, some that kind of are. But before we get there, because I do want to talk about News with My Fiance and Ambush, and specifically, it sounds like because you have so much time talking about news stories, like how much time do you get to talk about Batman being a cop though? Because I feel like it's very important. For those who are watching, you can't see in the background. Ambush is basically just.
He stood up.
He stood up.
The Dark Knight. He rises.
We can't be in studio together without this. It's what makes the dynamic work.
It's true. I don't talk about Batman being a cop, but I talk about him being a worthless billionaire a lot.
Ooh, that is a great segue to the submarine story.
Which Batman at least would have something that is equipped to go to the bottom of the ocean. Because he at least would spend the billion,
right.
Get Alfred to make sure that the people do the thing. Like, these dudes, not even.
But yeah, like, speaking of that, so admittedly, I've not been following the submarine story at all. Like, I've seen a few memes here and there, and you all were talking about it in studio today, and I was like, we should talk about this. We should talk about this on air so I can learn in real time for people to watch. And also, I didn't realize the like billionaire angle of it, because the way I had seen it was like, oh no, this tragedy and these poor people in the submarine.
Yeah.
And what had happened. So like I'm kind of getting the context, but can you just fill people in on what is happening? What is the submarine story?
I can. I can also just really quickly give you the context. This is it's giving Gabby Petito. And I'll tell you why. We get really great, amazing, around-the-clock coverage for missing white people, and especially missing white women. And this submarine does not have any white women on it, but we know what the end result is going to be, as we knew what the end result was with Gabby Petito, and that her boyfriend or fiance, whoever it was the person who killed her, and the police let him go. So this particular thing is getting all of the attention when there was also a boat that had nearly 800 people on it sink off the coast of Greece, and that's not the conversation. So just want to say those things real quick, because that's what this story is. It is because people are wealthy, we care. They decided to go. There's a company called Ocean Gate. Ocean Gate operates in Everett, Washington. They specialize in ocean expeditions, and they, I guess, maybe have submarines, but not this. This is a submersible, which means it can go underwater, and this particular one is supposed to be rated to go as deep as 4,000 meters, except for the window on it isn't, so good luck with that. Yeah, the window on it is rated for like 1,400 meters, which is not 4,000. If you are not great at conversion, you don't need to be, because one number is far bigger than the other, and that number means pressure and depth of the ocean. So, like, I don't know how far those people got, in all honesty. Like, if you get in, so, okay, I'm too far. I'm
Who
sorry.
are these people on the boat?
Okay, so
that was the one that surprised me.
There's one billionaire on the boat. No, 2 billionaires on the boat, I think. There's a billionaire who is a, like, energy baron. Of
course.
He's Pakistani, but is...
he lived in the UK.
Became a British citizen. So he and his son, because it was just Father's Day. So, of course, like, that probably was the plan. We will spend $500K, get into what looks like a pill, and sit there for 4 days. And then we'll go get to see the Titanic and go home, I guess. I don't know what they thought was going to happen. One of the people was the CEO of the Ocean Gate company. And then there's 2 other guys, I think. I don't remember exactly who they are. They are wealthy, but not billionaires.
They were like divers, or like they were both.
One's a diver.
Yeah, one of them was a diver. I think they were both like ocean-based people. Like, they know a lot about the water.
Okay. Like, one definitely was like a scientist of some sort. The other one, I am not as positive as Ado sounds. But, excuse me. So the entire premise is that you are going to go on the Titan, which is the submersible, and you will go down to the wreckage of the Titanic. And then, like, float around it or something. I'm unsure. I thought, from the jump, I was like, oh, okay, so then they're going to hop out, grab a couple, loot the the rest of the things over there. I don't know. Like, one of them I know for certain was like a huge Titanic enthusiast, and okay. As I said on news with my fiance this morning, I mean, that is just a class warfare boat. Like, there's no reason to be excited about the wreckage of literally classism on a boat. There's no, like, what's the interesting thing that you want to get off of there? Especially at this point. But anyway, then finding out that they can't get out of the Titan, that not only can they not get out, like, just once they get to the Titanic, they can't get out if they got to the surface. They are bolted in, sealed. Must have help from someone else, must have mothership take help them get back up to anywhere, and they're not tethered to anything.
Can I
Or-
also add a few structural details?
Please.
Because I watched a video on like how they built it, and it's confirmed. The way it's controlled is with a knockoff PlayStation controller.
That
One that
no,
you can like
Bruce,
you can buy this right now for like $30. I've seen it at Goodwill. I've seen this controller at Goodwill's for less. There was like hardware. The hardware, like people in the video, they were like bragging, being like, "Yeah, you can get these parts at Home Depot right now." Like obviously the bolting in. I didn't know about the window. I didn't know about the window until now. Yeah, it was pretty like. Also they said it was the size of a minivan and it has no seats, so everyone's just sitting.
Fam,
on
it's
the
22
floor.
feet long. It's a 22-foot.
I would just like to look directly in the camera. So again, this is my live reaction because I've tried not to pay attention to the story because it's one of those like big tragedies that just kind of like comes to you. It's like, oh, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But so if you see my face, I'm not just. This isn't like planned Stephen A. Smith mugging for the camera. This is real with these details.
Oh no,
Wow.
it's a mess. It's a mess. And the more like Ado said, 22 feet. Like it's a minivan.
So this is like a mixture because I remember there was
Or I
some
guess
proposal
22 feet's a little longer than a minivan, but
Yeah.
I don't know, 15 passenger van? Like how?
because wasn't there like a proposal for a similar, I guess, mission of like we're gonna send billionaires to like Mars or something like that,
Oh yeah, I mean,
mixed with that new.
There
Anyone
you
see
go.
the trailers for that new G4 movie?
No,
no.
It's like, or is it G4? Whatever the racing game is, because it's like Gran Turismo.
Gran
That's what
Turismo,
it is.
yes.
So it's like based on this guy who learned to become a race car driver by playing the game.
Oh yeah.
Because what I'm hearing is Billionaires to Mars meets Gran Turismo, the video game,
yeah.
and everyone died.
I
Yeah.
mean, send them to Mars. Let them go. Have fun.
Same with sending them to the water.
Yeah, these are choices. And we're in the middle of a war with the orcas. You want to go down there? That's it.
Wow.
I mean,
So we just got a confirmation. Ambush just passed me the phone, and I see it on his computer over here. We have official cause of death. All 5 people in the submarine have died officially due to implosion, which is crazy.
okay. Okay.
An hour
All
into the
so
descent?
fam,
This is the Black Mirror episode.
wait. So that means that because wait.
So they
Okay, we gotta
died.
wait.
Debris they think they've been seeing and trying to track the location. That's debris from the sub.
So they've been dead. They died. Yes, they died when they started.
Okay, I want to go because this was going to be part of me trying to give you the story. Is that they took off, or I don't know, what do you call it? Went down. The descent. They left at on Sunday, and lost all communication an hour and 45 minutes into the descent. Oh, so that means they died before they lost communication. Fam,
This is okay. Mars mission.
are we? Is
Gran
it a live
Turismo,
situation? Because I feel like I need
play test from Black Mirror.
This is crazy.
Goodness.
With the controller. With the gaming controller.
Oh my goodness.
Listen, this is outlandish.
I know we're not supposed to laugh at 5 people dying, but this is the most ridiculous. They all paid $250,000 to be on this boat or on this goddamn submarine.
I mean, wow.
So
Hour in?
I just sent you the link.
oh man.
Okay, I'm sorry. This doesn't make for probably good listening to of us just like but I'm
No, but like
But-
this is
This is live, y'all.
we are doing this in real time. Now that
an
I've caught
hour
up.
in.
Oh man.
You know how much coverage has been spent on people that was dead days ago? Oh.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the clip, but
I am the weekend. That is wow. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy that we have spent all these resources on that. Do you know how many people went out to look for that? Wait. Because
22-foot submersible.
Yep.
Called the Titan.
Titan.
Which is even funnier to me now.
No, it's
that
so
I have
great.
the numbers for it.
It's so great.
And this is because, admittedly, like I said, I have not been following the story. I've been only briefly following some conversation around, should we really be making jokes about this on Twitter or not?
Right.
And now that I'm here, I think I fall firmly on the side of, the jokes are gonna happen.
No, the jokes, they write themselves. I'm sorry. You decided. This was a decision. This was not an accident. Or not an accident, but this wasn't like a tragedy in the same way that a boat capsizing with refugees on it is a tragedy. And that got no coverage as a tragedy. Finding out that the Greece Coast Guard police folks probably sank that boat because they tried to tow it. That's news. Yeah. And that's not being talked about.
It's been happening.
And it's been happening. And they sent out planes, drones, other boats, the rover thing that goes on Mars, that kind of tech, that's down there, which is great because the Titan never made it that far. And the Titan also never made it that far any other time it tried.
Oh my God.
It doesn't work. And then they kept doing it. Then somebody was like, regulations, who needs it? We're a private company. We do what we want. Sign this thing that says if you die, you die. And they did. And then they did.
Oh my. It's there's some serious angles I want to take as far as even that comparison, because it makes me think of the war in Ukraine right now, again, with just driving around and seeing all these Ukraine flags and how we just finally dump all the money into that. And we're talking about Predator drones now that we didn't talk about in Iraq, Libya, Pakistan.
Is it just a new name for it? Because weren't they those things before?
No, they absolutely were.
Okay.
It's just I remember trying to have the conversation when Obama just exponentially expanded the Predator drone program, and people were like, oh no, it's not that serious. What's happening is it's in those brown countries. Who cares? Well, and then it happened to some white people, and we're like, oh, war.
Yep. No, I mean, if you can frame it as you are saving troops, right? That's really, I don't have the same affinity for the military as many people in this country do, but if you're able to frame anything, as Obama did, it was I'm going to, we're going to save lives, American lives.
Yeah. So we're going to wipe out literally hundreds of thousands of others.
I mean, don't count, don't keep count. They're just, these are enemies of war. You can't get behind it. There
was a policy because I remember it seemed ridiculous and dystopian when they had the policy of everyone knows this is happening, news channels are reporting on it, but I think it was Jay Carney was the press secretary at the time. There was a rule he couldn't acknowledge it in the press conferences. And I was like, that seems ridiculous, and everyone can see this, right? And then I talk with people and they're like, well, I mean, they're not talking about it, so I guess it's
not
are you
really
sure it's really happening?
It's not really.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
There's reporting from everywhere, from the same news channel you're watching this press conference on, saying it doesn't exist.
You just turn it off after the press conference. You don't even notice that all that information is there for you.
Yeah, we're spiraling off here, but I think it kind of comes back to the media literacy point and the curating news point, because we're talking about the story that everyone's talking about, but I also want to talk about a national story and a local story that I feel like are kind of going under the radar, kind of might need some context for people. So we'll start nationally.
Okay.
Most people hopefully understand there's there's a presidential election coming up. Kind of a big deal. And it's tough in the world of, hey, fascism is right at the door with Trump or DeSantis, whoever wins that battle, or Biden.
Joe Byron.
Good.
Joseph
That guy.
Robinette.
Joseph Robinette. But a new person has entered the race and has made for an interesting conversation around that.
Indeed.
Dr. Cornel West, and I want to preface this as someone who actually has been inspired by Dr. West and his work over the years. Read Race Matters back in like 8th grade. So that's kind of like where my journey with Dr. West has begun. So I don't say to get into the topic I'm about to get into lightly with this third party run, but I want to preface that as saying like, this is a person I respect. This is a person who I think, as far as jumping into the campaign and especially holding Joe Biden accountable for not just pushing more conservative, I think there's a very tangible, functional role of that.
Yes.
But
Agreed.
also, I have some concerns. The rollout has been interesting. So
That's a nice way to say.
yeah.
Bad.
For those who don't know, we started out. He had a video which some have said kind of sounds like it had like the blaxploitation music and everything. It was a little weird when he rolled out with the People's Party.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I didn't watch that video. But
Yeah, you'll watch it later. For those who don't know, the People's Party, again, independent party, started, I feel like a few years ago with like people who were with the Bernie Sanders campaign. The last person they ran for president was Jimmy Dore, noted, prolific, I'm not even gonna call him a progressive grifter.
good.
Because
That ain't it.
yeah, but in theory,
Grifter.
grifter markets himself as a progressive while spending most of his time attacking other progressive candidates, media personalities.
Yeah.
Does a lot to, canoodle with straight up white supremacists.
Yep.
Which would seem like a tell for most people, but
Somehow it's not.
no, talk to a lot of white leftists in Portland. They love that. They love it.
People's brains are broken. Like, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say really quickly, like the Jimmy Dore, that Russell Brand, like we have watched people go from having what were reasonable, questions and journeys and, whatever the, situation is, to allowing a debate about vaccines break their brains. So much so that they are in now like this perpetual purgatory. You don't get to go back to any of the progressive policies that you're talking about if at some point in your anti-vax pipeline you have picked up all of these anti-black things, all of these anti-trans things, all of these, you don't get to just go back and be like, oh man, okay, never mind, and dust yourself off and be like, I'm a progressive. No, you're not. No, if you ever were, which is, Jimmy's always been questionable to me, but if you ever were, you are no longer that. And they need to be treated with that. His show is entertainment for people that are completely fine with the way that the world is. And I don't have time for that. That to me means you are unserious. That to me means that you don't actually understand any of the things that you claim to be fighting for. And so you're not a part of the community for us at large anyway. But watching people lose their minds based on vaccines that those people have had vaccines as children. Yeah. Those people have had vaccines as adults. And y'all let the internet break you in a way that was like, but science, right? Like it was too much common sense. I can't handle it. So anyone listening to Jimmy Dore, I'd love to chat with you and tell you to stop.
So much more generous than I. I'm just like,
Well, it's because they get audiences, and that's the
True.
thing that kills me is that he's not saying anything, and he's not giving anything to anyone anymore, and it's been years that he hasn't.
I'll say this: what he's giving is like he's loud, and he gives you a quick and convenient place to channel your anger, which
Okay.
I think is
Okay.
I try not to. I don't support it, obviously, but I'm trying to like get what the appeal is and why people go for the grift. And it's like, okay, if you have the ability to capture this audience of, because I guess like his background's like a stand-up comedian or whatever. So you have the opportunity to capture audience, a grieved audience,
Right.
and you give them a simple ask, support my channel, or his whole thing was, force the vote for Medicare for all, which I believe in healthcare, but it's one of those things where you do something that sounds good, but you don't have any substance behind it. You're not actually doing something functional behind it, but you're loud and angry. People see that and they're like, I can trust that person, and he's kind of funny. I can trust him. He entertains me. And then what you get is just something I've seen. Again, it's not just Jimmy Dore. I think is one of the most glaring examples of it. But
Joe Rogan.
yeah, it's just this
Joe Rogan's
frustrating-
exactly the same. And any of you Roganites, you can come at me. We can talk about it. It's the same thing. It's white male aggrievement that just ends up getting to manifest in different ways. And so that little part of the pipeline, it takes you other places, and you will never get out of that pipeline without experiencing a whole bunch of anti-everybody non-white man. And I mean, that ain't progress. You don't get to call yourself a progressive. You don't get to tell me you care about politics either, because you're not doing anything to actually move a needle. Right. And like with Force the Vote, you illustrated that perfectly. He's yelling, he's mad. We're all yelling, we're mad. Like I firmly believe that everybody deserves health care. There should be universal health care. I fundamentally believe that. Yelling about it into a microphone and getting people to be like, yeah, and then what? You're not holding any of your own local politicians to account. You keep electing the same national people.
Andy's just the biggest, I think, tangible thing from that whole effort was just undercutting progressive politicians.
Easy.
Like I said, it's just like,
just discredit.
Hey, can I smear AOC with this? Can I smear Ilhan with this?
Absolutely.
That's all it did. And again, like you said, like appealing to white males specifically, but just like white grievance culture, because I think one of the things that growing up in Oregon, I feel like is giving me perspective on is just like these labels are just labels. A lot of people who fashion themselves as leftists or progressives, they are one moment of like, ooh, I applied and I didn't get into this school. I think the blacks did it, and switch over.
It's affirmative action.
Yeah. Like,
it's definitely that fault.
One thing.
Yep.
There are one moment, one bad interaction with a black or brown person from switching over to the side, and it can be like hard. Like one day I'm out here at Occupy. The next day I'm a libertarian. The next day, I think the Proud Boys have something.
You're literally describing Jimmy Dore. Like, yes, that's it. And the crowd. Like, it happens real fast too. Like, and it's terrifying. Back to Cornel West, I think. I don't know. I'm sorry. No. I took us way
I
appreciate
appreciate you doing the production job I'm supposed to be doing. But Cornel West started running with the People's Party, who again ran Jimmy Dore the last time. He recently switched to the Green Party, which is a more official third party. They ran Jill Stein last time, and there's that too, but at least like they're a real third party, whereas the People's Party is on the ballot in 3 states.
3.
Same way we're talking about Kanye running on whatever party that was also on the ballot in like 2 or 3 states. It's that same level of seriousness.
Running. Yeah.
And again, I want to give some credit to, like, if you put Cornel West on those stages, and I don't know if they'll do that with this, like, yeah, he can have some national moments where he presses Joe Biden to take more left stances that he might not have taken otherwise. I think there's a value in that, but also it kind of comes back to that unseriousness that, I don't know, I've started working with more organizations that do that electoral work and organizing during the whole year.
Right.
That are trying to like build up independent candidates or build up genuinely progressive candidates, build up the infrastructure around them. So I see what it looks like when people actually are like, hey, we want to run alternatives. We're tired of what the Democratic Party is doing and kind of like holding people back or, you know, letting the police and others co-opt the work. Mm-hmm. But then when I see people who like, they only talk about third party when it's a general election and there's no plan, it's just, well, they can run. Why would you be against the People's Party? You're the enemy. And it's like, you're not talking about anything. They are on the ballot in 3 states, but it's Dr. West. How could you be against this? And it's like, you're just taking advantage of a bunch of people because the reality is most people aren't paying attention. Not because they're not serious. Some definitely are, but you know, people work, people have other jobs, people do other things. So I get that, but they're also adamant. And also that crossover with, again, the white leftist who could easily be white supremacists after one incident is deep. And they love this, especially when you put a face like Dr. West on it. Like,
yeah.
So it doesn't matter that he had an op-ed where he was basically agreeing and pumping up Ron DeSantis last month. Not last year, not 2 years ago. Dr. West did that last month.
I read that differently, and I think I'm in the minority.
Really?
Yeah, I did not take that to be as him pumping him up. Not the point of the conversation, but
what we should talk about.
The way that I took what he was saying is the way that Cornel talks, you know, and let me be clear, Dr. Cornel West. We are not on a first name basis. I did not mean to just be like Cornel.
Cornel.
But he's bombastic a lot, you know? And so there's words that he's going to use very definitively and definitionally, I guess is what I mean to say, that may have a different context. And he knows that. But I think that it's like saying what DeSantis has done is revolutionary isn't wrong. It just isn't the revolution we want. And so, yeah, Trump is a problem. DeSantis is a bigger problem because DeSantis knows how to actually get these things done, and he has the motivation to get it done. Like Trump is more, I have been living in my tower for so long. Every single one of you is beneath me, and I'm not actually worried about like someone getting me because Mar-a-Lago or whatever, right? DeSantis, you could get him. Like people know where he lives. You know what I'm saying? But so he knows what he wants done. He wants a ethno state. Like that's on the table. So like he's way scarier, but a lot of the stuff that he has done is revolutionary in the definition. And so I don't think that that was like the way to talk about Ron DeSantis, because it is a conversation of, my mom's calling me, a conversation of, did he just pump Ron DeSantis up instead of look at all the bad things that Ron DeSantis is doing, you know? That's how I took it. That's how I read it. I think I am in the minority. I have not talked to anybody else who feels the same way. So I'm probably wrong.
I'll say, so the thing that's kind of curious about it for me is because he's talking about sort of like standardized testing, replacing it with like the classics test. I forget if that's exactly the word. I know he like sits on the board of an organization trying to do that. So there's part of that embedded in sort of like the whole story. But he did, like Mark Lamont Hill recently had him on earlier this week to ask him about the campaign, but directly about that as well.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, Dr. West was explaining himself and saying, look, sometimes a broken clock is right twice a day as far as the part he agrees with in getting rid of agrees with DeSantis in removing certain standardized tests. And again, it was a little curious for me. It was hard not to think about how Dr. West also did that video at the bar conversation with Candace Owens, where I get the, like, I'm trying to bridge the
point,
gap.
right.
I'm, meeting people where they're at. So I don't want to say that there's no value in that, but I've also learned in this media space, people are very visual. And
For sure.
that most people are going to see the thumbnail of that and
Be
take
like,
their
oh, do
message
they
from
go?
there.
Yeah.
So, I do think it's important, though, in pointing out the details and diversions in it.
I mean, for me, I think that you're not wrong about how people take stuff and see a picture of, see a thumbnail of Dr. Cornel West and any white supremacist, including Candace Owens. Like, that's going to be a confusing thing. But again, that's on the person who's taking that.
Right.
Because if you don't know who Dr. Cornel West is, this is a 70-year-old man who has been a part of public political academic life for like 55 years. Like that, then on you. That's on you. But I feel you. Like the truth of it is that is what some people are going to take. I don't see the value for me of talking to him talking to a Candace or doing a Ron DeSantis anything. But the value it's not for us. It is for that person's audience.
Right.
So when he talks to Russell Brand, yeah, all those people that just red pilled on accident, like that are now all of a sudden libertarians that just, want everybody to keep their tax money and not have roads. I don't know. Those people need to hear from a Cornel West, right? Like any single body would benefit from hearing from him. So I don't love it, and it doesn't. But I know it's not for us because we already get the message and we're already on board.
Yeah. I think that it's that's an important point as far as, again, just like meeting people where they're at. And it's not like it's inconsistent with how Dr. West has moved throughout his career.
No, everybody's a brother and sister, right? Yeah. Like a Republican brother and sister. No, they're not, but okay.
Right.
Okay.
I guess it kind of speaks to the other part of, I feel like I have like two big worries with this campaign specifically. One is the one I think most people would think about is like, okay, functionally is mostly just going to weaken Biden in terms of votes when, again, like fascism is knocking at the door. Mm-hmm. It's already here, but
thank you for saying that.
Be clear, it's already here, but there is a real danger of Ron DeSantis or Trump getting that much power back. That said, the other thing is when I look at how people who are concerned about Dr. West running and taking it as an opportunity to just be like, I'm going to go full bore slander Dr. West in all these platforms, which I'm starting to see where it's like, no. Like that's not the way to engage with this. We're just going to just completely, shit on the legacy. Like, don't do that.
And there's no reason to.
Right.
You've not been given reason to do that. Like that's just 1,000% whack.
Yeah.
I'd want to make a point though that is take these last who's the president? Joe Biden and Trump. Mm-hmm. Take those two elections, right? They're going to run the exact same playbook. And if anybody is more interested in politics past what has just immediately happened, look behind you and all the same playbooks. It's always the same. Fascism is always at the door. Fascism is in the house. It's in the everywhere. It's in the all the things. We spent too much time as a country allowing the propaganda of like, no, that's other countries to happen for us to be like, up in arms about the fascism today. Like, we literally just ushered it in. So that's one. Two, I'm never going to be more mad, I guess I should say. I'm not going to be more mad at a third party candidate than I am at the Democratic establishment who thinks it makes sense to run Joseph Robinette Biden, who is literally falling down as we speak.
Yeah.
Like, that's on you, because you didn't think that the black woman could win, or you didn't think that so-and-so could happen, or it could be as simple as it's his turn still, like it was for Hillary. This is silly. And what it, to me, just continues to illuminate is that all of this is like not real for the people that are in the most power. It's a job that is fun, that is like not a serious thing. It's literally like you're a Walmart greeter. And I don't say that disparagingly against a Walmart greeter. What I mean is they're not taking this home and dealing with it the way that we're all taking it home and dealing with it. And they don't care. So you're not going to like hand ring me and do all of how could you even think about voting? How could you think about running Joe Biden? How? Not with fascism at the door, right? Because if it's this big deal, what have you done to prove that fascism isn't the way to go for them? Because you haven't done it. And so I'm not going to be mad at any other party that jumps in the ring. They're not going to win, and they're not going to pull enough votes from Joe. Like, Cornel West, all of the respect. I would love for, him to dismantle every single lever of American imperialism. That's not going to happen. He's saying it in interviews. You're not going to get elected. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, like, that's my thing is, I'm not concerned about Cornel pulling anything from anyone. I think that it is a net benefit, I guess, that he will be able to hopefully be more nationally recognized for conversations about class, conversations about anti-imperialism. But he's not going to be the president, and he's not going to take enough votes. There's not enough radical white people to vote for him. There's just not.
No, I'll say this. You have more optimism for the conversation going in a smart place than I do. Because, and maybe that's by reframe.
My own delusion.
And put it, because like that, again, my hope would be that he pushes the discussion, the discourse, the policy proposals left. He gives a national platform to real abolitionist ideas.
Yes.
And Dr. West is absolutely capable, has been doing that. And if they can get him on the stage for some of these debates.
Yeah, but what debates?
That'd be great.
Because the Democrats said they don't need him.
Also that.
I'm with you 100%. Yeah. Like, that is the point, to have a third party run in this way. That is the point. That is why Bernie Sanders ran. That is why I believe Cornel is running, is to, at the very least, mainstream some of these ideas so that people who are either sort of apathetic and don't understand how big of a deal any of this is, or the people who, like us, have a greater understanding of how important those, not just ideas, but actions behind them are, and how immediate, because people are dying as we speak from just things we can fix within this country, right? So, saying all of that to say, if he were on a debate stage, he would wreck every single one of them. If he were able to just have, a sit-down conversation with any one of them, he would wreck any one of them. And those ideas and planned actions can get out there to the people that haven't heard of it, or didn't think it was possible, or, had no idea that you could even be thinking in that regard. But that's where the buck stops. It's not, he's not, no major shade to Marianne Williamson or anyone else who's doing things. I think hopefully, the best part of me wants to believe that she's doing a run for the same reason, just to mainstream some ideas. 'Cause she knows she's not going to win. And she also doesn't need a new book deal or, life after the I ran for the presidency.
Right.
Like RFK is doing right now, or, I don't know. Slow descent into being a mad Republican or whatever he's going to come back as. But sorry, I just went all over the place. And I interrupted you. I'll be quiet.
No. It's just, I think with this, similar to the media literacy conversation we're having before, where more so than vote for this, vote for that, like, don't vote for Trump or DeSantis, please.
Right.
But like, know the process, because like the details matter.
Big time.
And it's easy, especially when we talk about how the Democratic Party has just basically shut out dissent, marginalized anyone who's trying to like push them.
We see you, Nancy.
Yeah, like it feeds that disillusionment and the real feeling of like, okay, yeah, the system is like, I'm not going to disagree with anyone saying a two-party system is very rigged.
Yeah,
the system, because that's the point. Like they have the money and the infrastructure to where it's like, yeah, actually door knocking does work, but they can also reach a lot more people to door knock. They can reach a lot more people when it comes to lobbying. It costs money to fly people to Washington and house them and keep them there to lobby politicians. It's all these little details matter. And even with these elections, like, however, like they put a lot of energy into, they talk about whatever, like Wisconsin last general election of like, it was determined by however many thousand votes or whatever is really what determined the presidency. And again, like it's easy to look at all these little details and say, so why should I care?
Yeah.
And especially like with national elections, especially with the presidential election, I understand that a little bit more, but when it comes to like trying to rally people to where they can have more involvement, more impact locally, like it disillusions people for that process too. And we get results in these elections that, I'm still very haunted by the re-election of Ted Wheeler among really with all of, because I feel like that happened not just with Ted Wheeler as mayor, but throughout the city council, where it was Mingus Mapps, who was endorsed by the police union, ran against Chloe Eudaly, who was like a known tenants' rights advocate, who I do know people in the community who had like weren't big fans of Chloe Eudaly like that, just as on some other stuff. But in that case, the decision was clear, and Mingus Mapps has since done everything everyone thought someone
would have thought someone who
endorsed
looks
by a
like
police
Chloe
union would do. Like he did that, and people warned everyone ahead of time, but it still happened. But same thing when people are trying to, like when Renee Gonzalez was running against Joanne Hardesty, and again, there's a very clear distinction between the two people. But when you're disillusioned with the system, and you just gotta chip a little bit to make that margin work. Now we have Renee Gonzalez in there. We got Dan Ryan in there, who all just voted for a camping ban, which effectively fines homeless people, which is a ridiculous fines, and then eventually imprisons if you can't pay those fines when you are homeless. Like that's a policy they just passed.
I mean, and think that through. If there is a punishment, if the punishment for a crime is a fine, then it is a punishment because you are poor.
Right.
There is no in between with that. If I can just pay it and leave, I mean, that's the issue with bail. If I can just pay it and leave, then bye, right? And so you're only going to have poor people within your jails because we can crowdfund that, or get it from my auntie, or get it from my dad. Like those people with money have money, and they don't have to worry about those consequences. Imagine being so upset by just seeing some tents outside, not living in one, not being impacted by the people that actually live there, just being getting off the freeway and seeing a mess, and it's so much of a bother to you that you will hop on board an anti-black anti-black woman campaign in order to be a part of an anti-poor, anti-homeless campaign. Like, where are y'all? Like, what? Disillusioned is not a big enough, dramatic enough word. Like, it is.
There's different angles to it.
Yeah, it's wild. It's very wild. But anybody who thinks that you can fix or a solution would be jail to being poor, you again unqualified for the conversation. In my opinion, you are not anywhere close to being serious. If you want people to have homes, and your idea is I shouldn't have to pay for it because I pay for my own or whatever, cool. Do you want to stop paying for everything else that you pay for billionaires that don't pay their taxes? You have no problem with that.
Like, police and jails cost more than housing people.
So much more. and the numbers are there. The numbers are accessible to everybody. You can respond in the tweet with the numbers, and they're like, nah, no. Put them in jail. Lock them up.
It's like cruel. I mean, honestly, like the point.
It
almost
is.
feels like cliche to say it at this point, but it's like cruelty is the policy. I think about during the midterms and watching, go to my parents' house. They live in Lake Oswego, and seeing what ads they're running for, these defund the police radicals are burning down the city. Aren't you scared of all these homeless people? We must do something. It's like, this People for Portland whole nonsense. Just
People for landlords.
running. Yeah.
Oh,
Portland Business Alliance.
we definitely need more political action packs for the business class.
Yeah, there's all these campaigns appealing to people in the suburbs, business owners who are down with the Portland Business Alliance.
Yep.
To again do a policy. All these policies are either more money for cops.
Yep.
To kick people's asses on the streets and arrest them,
Yep.
or we have all these empty prison beds that we need to fill, and we already invested so much money. We got to put some people in it. But those are, if you boil down all these policies, that's the solution every time.
Yep.
It's one or both of those. And I don't know how any reasonable person, if you say you're worried about your safety, there's nothing about that makes society safer. Like
Literally nothing.
nothing. But if you want, again, when cruelty is the point, when feeding into people's, fears, that's a very nice way of putting it. Mm-hmm. Fears, prejudices is the point, and you can offer that quick solution of, well, you're scared of those people. Let's enact a bunch of cruelty on them. That'll do it.
I mean, I say pay attention to how much money they spend on things that have nothing to do with a solution, right? That is politicians, that is political action PACs, that's the people that are out here doing the most, we need revolutionary change, and that means jail. That means do the thing that we have as a country always done. I say pay attention to what they are willing to spend money on and what they aren't willing to spend money on, right? Because they will spend millions and millions of dollars to lie to you. Literally do fan fiction. The ad you're talking about, the city's on fire, and aren't you scared? And it's fan fiction. None of it was happening.
Nope.
Not in the way that was described, and not in the way that anybody who lives here looked out there and went, oh yeah, that is. Oh wow, it looks just like the news. Nowhere. And the amount of people that we had to like continuously be like, no, Portland is fine and our kids are fine and it's not on fire. It's 2 blocks downtown. Like, but imagine spending millions of dollars on that. What could you have done if your idea is, we'll round people up and take them to shelters or whatever it is? Did you buy a fleet of vans to go round people up, or did you spend money on ads to lie? And so anybody who's out here supporting those ideas, I'm like, okay, cool. What have they done? Show me. Because they can't. If your idea is urban alchemy or safe harbor or any of these grifting, private companies that are going to get millions of our dollars to do absolutely nothing but terrorize poor and homeless folks, and and call that giving them resources. If that's the fix, it isn't just that cruelty is the point. Like, it's mandatory. Like, you want to see people harmed before you see people hurt. And that's some self-reflection people got to do. That's on y'all.
Yeah.
I can't imagine voting for someone that, like Renee Gonzalez, who spent millions of dollars, who was able to benefit from, Jordan Schnitzer giving him office space downtown and all this stuff, and being able to do and be so hypocritical about no one can go downtown, but I guess your campaign can be there. No one can go downtown because it's so scary and there's so many homeless people and but you are there for free and you have no problem with it. Somehow your car is safe. Like all of the hypocritical stuff. I can't see myself voting for those people and then being okay with what has happened. Like, like I don't know. Mingus is such a disappointment. Renee was always gonna, but Portland is really showing its white lash. Like it's really giving us where are the people of color that are willing to weaponize their identity, so that we can say, look, we got a black man on city council, and look, we have a Latino man on, and he's a Democrat, which he absolutely is not.
Not at all. It's wild. Like, again, the playbook isn't new. It's everywhere, but it's so in your face with like it's very transparent. I think another thing about it that's frightening to me, because again, I look at these ads and I'm like, most reasonable people should look at this and be like, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. And being in like LO, knowing people's like, yeah, you or your kids were down there downtown, and yet your peers believe this about the thing.
Right.
Like, because usually can kind of be the thing. Like, if you have a connection, it's like, oh, I guess it's not the scary thing on TV. No. But also, because they're spending all this money to not just broadcast it around the state, but broadcast it to
nationally.
people. Yeah, nationally. So I'll follow like certain channels, personalities I'll follow talking about the whole Cop City thing in Georgia. And then you'll just randomly hear Portland like name dropped, and like even like progressive outlets out of state, the only thing they're hearing is the propaganda because it has this big net.
Yep.
So they're repeating that stuff about Portland too, or repeating that, that we've actually passed all these laws and it's this progressive haven that it is definitely not. And I'm just like, that's the other effect of this, because like we talked about at the beginning, the amount of money being spent on propaganda and misinforming people, or at the very least feeding enough of that disillusionment to make people just throw up their hands and say, I don't want to get involved, which is where I want to bring it back. Because one, Portland City Council is expanding to 12 seats. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very, very important. And when I talk about specifically, because people are going to listen to this and say, okay, you said don't get disillusioned. Now you just shared all these details of why I should be disillusioned. So what can I do? It's like, I need to get involved with groups doing this work. I'll just shout one, Imagine Black, who does it.
Shout
but
out
like
Imagine Black.
But there's plenty of community organizations that, of all, Mingus Maps was leading the charge to try and defund, unironically.
Oh.
that happened
Shout out
too.
Reimagine Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were there for that. We saw you, Mingus.
Yeah. So like, this is, again, national elections, there's whole other stuff there, but locally, when it comes to mobilizing around these city council seats, like, we got to do it. We got to, however, not everyone needs to run for office. There's plenty, again, people need door knockers. People are going to just, call people.
People need phone people.
All
People need
these
email
small things
situations.
matter.
Yep.
Because you're fighting against big money to keep things the way they are.
Yes.
And so and also not to get again, I go back to the mayor's race because it was like Ted Wheeler versus Sarah Iannarone. And I just remember hearing a lot of people being like, these are the same candidate. And I was like, no, don't.
I wonder
don't
how
do
much
that.
money was spent to say that, right?
Also that.
Like, I want people to get to the point when you're thinking politics, you absolutely need to be thinking who funded this thing. Like, knowing that someone like Roger Stone and Steve Bannon are the catalyst for a Donald Trump presidency, y'all need to know who those people are, and you need to know what they're doing, because Roger Stone is friends with every single one of those Proud Boys. Like, friends. Like, let's do the Coke party after we go to the rally, friends. Like, he is the one who was telling them, you know what you need to do is get on the school boards. Like, y'all need to know who these people are, because the people that are funding People for Portland are that same ilk.
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's just in your actual neighborhood where it actually immediately matters to you. And if you aren't paying attention to who is funding these things, who would tell you that Ted Wheeler is the same as Sarah Iannarone? Like, who's telling you that? And why? Maybe co-opting some thoughts there, maybe gonna act like that person is a little more progressive than they are, when we know that timber barons are actual conservatives when it comes to everything. And so there's no room for calling him a Democrat, a progressive, a leftist, anything. He is not here for the people. So who paid for that? That's the media literacy I want people to be having. Like, I want people to be like, I've heard this story 3 times now from KATU, but when I hear it from KGW, it's a little bit different. Why? Like, that's what I want to happen, because a lot of these places are going to continue. They have a moneyed interest, and a moneyed interest is their survival. So you're going to get a different message. And locally, I just want to speak to really quickly how important, I can't remember in this very moment, but there was a moment when it was like a few people I know that were just like, national politics don't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who the president is. It only matters who your local politicians are. And I think we've proven that that was not true. I think we can just not even really deal with that. But to the point of how important local politics are, the amount of people that don't know that Mingus Maps tried to take $5 million from a Black nonprofit that is designed to directly help Black Oregonians, because they didn't distribute the funds fast enough. And he said, I think we should take that $5 million and give it to the police, because they're not doing their job. That nonprofit isn't doing their job. Not enough people know that Reimagine Oregon never got the money.
Yeah, it was held
So
up.
distribute what funds, right? That should be disqualifying. Mingus Maps should not get to bring up anything else. He should have to like sit there in the timeout chair if we're not going to kick him off the city council. Like, you should not get to be there. If you are going to make these huge, swift moves of trying to take money from Black people that have yet to get that money, embarrass everybody who was on top, who was on board, right? Because Dan Ryan, you are a shameful man anyway, but like, here you are. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Oh, wait, what? They never got the money. How come no one knew that?
For those, just quick clarification for those not watching, Dan Ryan also on the city council, maybe someone else, in the middle of this whole discussion, like, it's not hyperbole, literally like learned and kind of changed position.
I mean, he changed position. Mingus didn't.
I mean, of course not.
I mean, like, think that, like, you got the person who is supposed to be the director, the executive director of this nonprofit, which has yet to be funded, saying, hey, yeah, you could have just asked me this. We don't have the money.
All right.
You want to send it through a wire? What do you want to do? Let me have the money and redistribute it. Like, we not enough people know that. So locally, when you are in your, and especially in Portland and surrounding areas, but if you are hearing people say the police were defunded and that's why, they never were. Nope. If you are hearing drugs are totally legal and that's why, they never were. Words absolutely matter. There is a difference between decriminalizing and legalizing, a humongous difference between those two. And I want people to understand that, like, if the police are the ones telling you this, there should always be a question mark. There should always be a side eye. There should always be okay, great. I thank you for sharing. And then you go find out what actually happened, because they lie on your police report. They lie on your speeding ticket. They lie on everything. So you think that they're not going to tell you, as they have quit their jobs but are still getting paid, that it's your fault that that's happening? They're definitely going to tell you that directly to your face. But the combination of the police deciding, I'm not going to do my job because these people don't want to be brutalized, and not funding not going the way that it was supposed to go for Measure 110, yeah, it looks wild. And somehow we have just completely forgotten that there was an entire pandemic and that thing is still happening and that people lost everything. And we're just going to, capitalism our way out of it. We're not going to take care of anybody. We have decided rent moratorium. Who needs that? Our own Republican senators stopped going to work for so long. There are at least three of them, that will not get to run again. But on top of it, they're holding up all the funding.
Well,
the money's just sitting there. They're holding us hostage and nobody's yelling at them. That's the thing that gets me.
And they're going to get everything they want, most likely because they did it.
Because, yes. Yeah. Y'all need to be paying attention to that so this doesn't continue to happen. Like, government doesn't have to work this way. Bureaucracies don't have to be this, mashed up. Like, it literally doesn't have to. It is on purpose. It is on purpose so that people are not helped, so that these are just jobs, so that this is just a performance. So politics, who cares? That's what it's for. I don't want to pay for that. I don't want my money to go to that.
That's the battle we're fighting. Just kind of like bring it all back when we talk about even this media space, the information gaps, and even to the point when we were talking about Jimmy Dore earlier, and these other elements of what makes it so difficult. Because on one hand, you have like Trump, DeSantis, conservative whole political and media infrastructure, and just bullhorn that you're constantly dealing with. Then you got the Joe Biden milquetoast Democrat media political infrastructure dominating the space. And then even just in that little sliver of like people trying to actually do the right thing or somewhat activated, like we're trying to get people to pay attention to details, which seems like an easy thing. But then you also have Jimmy Dore out there and they're like, well, all those details you're talking about, that's a little bit too much.
Yeah.
The angry guy with a message that fits on a bumper sticker, we're going to pay attention to him because there's too much other stuff to pay attention to. And I like healthcare, so let's do that. And it's like we're trying to cut through all of that, even in these battles, just to, again, it's not that I don't want people to take away like, oh, I guess I'm helpless, there's too much going on. Actually, there's so many places you could get, like, you don't have to hit a home run with everything.
Yes.
There's so many places, like something as simple, again, door knocking, phone banking,
flyers
donating,
at the grocery store.
All these, I just keep coming back to this LO audience with people asking me, what can I do? You have money. The money. It's the money.
It's the money. It's always the money. The answer is the money.
Like, there's so many places where maybe we can't win it all tomorrow, but these 12 city council seats.
That's huge.
To change Portland.
Huge. Ranked choice voting. Huge. Like, this is how Portland gets the the rep that it has not deserved, though, is, you know, we will make some strides. They will not get implemented, but we will vote for it. Like we want these things, and so I'm excited to see. You know, I'm excited for the rollout of an expanded city council. Not as excited to see, you know, all the people that run, but I'm hopeful that for people to understand the importance of expanding the city council enough to vote for it, and enough to at least talk about it to get other people to vote for it enough, you know, that leads me to believe that they have at least a little bit of an understanding that that controlled power and the way that it has been does not work. So if it isn't going to be that, let's take some chances instead of like going back to the thing we also know doesn't work, like jail or authoritarianism, you know.
Those things.
Those little things.
Even to your point about, you know, we're talking about Dr. West and sort of the op-ed with Ron DeSantis, sort of like specifically, well, like what does revolutionary actually mean? Like the one, I'm not gonna call it a positive, but I feel like the one thing the Trump presidency kind of showed, because there was like certain policy implementation that most people thought, yeah, you can't actually do that, right? You can't, and then they did kind of pull the veil off again, you know, horrifyingly fascist direction, but it did pull the veil off of like, no, actually, if you put the people in the seats to make the decisions or to control the money, you can actually do that if you want to. Like, it is a lot of work to do that, especially when you don't have all that infrastructure, but like we can do it. We can do it here. Like, shout out to the Charter Commission for actually getting structural reforms passed. And like, that's a big win that, you know, we shout out a little bit, we don't shout out enough, but it's like, we can do these things. Like, it does take organizing. It does take, sorry kids and people who are young at heart, there are a lot of boring meetings that do have to happen to get everyone on the same page and make some things work. A lot of the not so sexy parts of the revolutionary process are also involved, but it can be done. So please do not take this as please understand the details, but don't take this as like a period of hopelessness. Take this as like, this is what we can do. Here's spot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a million that you can plug in at, and we can actually get this done.
Yes, that's the message. That's the message.
Well, yeah, Morgan, thank you again for taking the time and being willing to go down this rabbit hole of anger and frustration and disillusionment with me. And hopefully there was some hope somewhere there. Again,
there definitely was.
Yeah,
is still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is. We sound so convinced. God. But yeah, thank you again.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.